Namastu.
Namastu.
How's everybody today?
Well,
We here, we got life, we got strength.
I dare not complain.
Dare not complain. That's correct. Well, it's another opportunity for us to delve deeper into the mysteries of atonism. And today we're going to touch on something that is prevalent in our communities, in our homes, in our nation, in our world. And the theme of our sermon today is one of double consciousness, and more specifically the sin of double consciousness. I know some would wonder, well, what is wrong with being conscious? You know, what is the big deal? Why? And then what is this whole idea of double consciousness? We're going to touch on that and then bring it on home as to how the realities of the original books of the Bible will make us stay focused with regards to the consciousness of the Most High Heavenly One. So today I want to start in Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, verses 14. I'll start at verse 14 rather. And probably just read up to verse 16 again. And it reads, "And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception in sorrow. Thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." Alright? So, there's a lot there. We'll stop at verse 16. The verse that I want to point out, and the verse is going to lead us into this discussion, is verse 15, that speaks on the enmity between the woman and the serpent. The enmity between the woman and the serpent, because these are two seeds or two genetic lines that are running through humanity today. And so far as we've all been mixed, we've all had our original identity, genetics, our way of life and everything watered down by the serpent seed. And this serpent seed wishes for us to give up our birthright, and in giving up our birthright, allow them to supplant us. Alright? So, Genesis 3 and 15 makes it clear that this is a reality, scripturally, even though we knew that before we ever picked up a Bible if we were paying attention. But we jump into a bit of history now, as one of our great leaders and orators and writers by the name of W.E.B. Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois, and he had a concept of double consciousness. Double consciousness. So bear with me, I'm going to read a little bit of what this double consciousness is, because I want us to be clear as to how this is manifested in our society today, and largely in our world. But it says, W.E.B. Du Bois introduced the term double consciousness into the study of African American psychology. So automatically there's a whole realm of psychology dedicated to what we have become in America, which is African American. Double consciousness comes from African Americans viewing themselves individually and as a group through the eyes of the society they live in. So you live in a Greco-Roman or a Eurocentric society, and you don't necessarily fit in, and you hold yourself to the standards that have been put in place by the very society that you live in. Du Bois says it is always, quote unquote, always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. Alright, those standards that we'll never meet. This produces what Du Bois calls a two-ness. Not a oneness, but a two-ness. Yes, a two-ness. And in this instance, we're speaking about our brothers and sisters in America. It says an American, a Negro, and you could very well put in the term Bahamian, a Negro. Two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, quote unquote. These two views are often in conflict with one another. There's a conflict, there's a major conflict, and this is what we're facing right now in our society. A major conflict insofar as we love to talk good talk. We love to be in the conscious chat room on Facebook or down on the beach or wherever the conversation is happening because we love a good talk. But when it comes to actually living the talk, many people back out for various reasons. I'm not judging anybody, but we got to tell the truth. Alright? It goes on to say, these two views are often in conflict with one another, as the American view in general has despised and dehumanized African Americans. And there I say Africans. So we've been despised and dehumanized, which makes it not easy for us to look at ourselves as Africans, because the only concept of an African for most of us is people starving, people at war, people living just to survive, you know. And that's not to say that there aren't people in Africa living like that, but there are people in America living like that. In the Bahamas, everywhere we have starving people. There's always some kind of war, whether it's a gang war, a turf war, whatever you want to call it. But yet, these things have been attached to what is African for so long that that's all we look at. And this is why I love to watch the African channel, because the African channel will show you what's really going on in Africa. I'm not saying it can tell you every single thing, but they at least delve into the cities of Africa, and they show you how many non-Africans are living in Africa and doing well. Why don't they want us to see that? Why don't they want us to appreciate that there's a part of Africa that allows us to be proud? And I'm not even going back into our great story of us building pyramids and coming up with the sciences and the writings and so on. I'm speaking about if you jump on a plane today, there's things right now that you can go to Africa and be proud about. Yes? But that has been despised, and we've been despised and dehumanized. It goes on to say their struggle, says Du Bois, is that they want to be both Negro and American, in our case Bahamian, without being cursed and spit on by his fellows, without having the doors of opportunity closed roughly in his face. So the reality then is that we have a situation whereby we as Bahamians have the same dilemma where, okay, we don't mind wearing a little pin, whether it's Selassie or Marcus Garvey or wear a funk or whatever, but we don't want to offend the people that we know don't really respect our way of life, and the fear of having certain opportunities not come our way, or the fear of us being not liked, is what keeps us away from actually manifesting our true greatness. The question still remains, however, if it is even feasible for an African American, or in this case an African Bahamian, to merge into society as both an American and an African without being held back or looked down upon. It will be a shame in the land of the free, this great melting pot, they're speaking of America now, it is found to be impossible for this merging of the African and American to happen. It's been over 400 years now. If they haven't accepted who we are by now, it's not going to happen. You might as well know that. With time and effort on both sides, white and black, it should be possible. However, because of history and the current situation of society, it will by no means be easy. Because of history, there is a long tradition of considering people innately different because of their skin color. It is seen in the language, such as acting black or acting white. By using these terms, society is perpetuating the myth that there is a certain way that a person acts, dresses, and talks based solely on the shade of their skin. Now that's true though, because the shade of your skin doesn't just happen because. It's based on your genetics. And along with the shade of your skin, there are other factors in the genetics that allow you to be who you are. So this whole idea of the double consciousness then, why we titled this sermon The Sin of Double Consciousness, is because as a tonus, to be one with the Most High means to first and foremost be one with yourself. To be one with yourself means that you must know who you are, to value who you are, to understand the strengths and the weaknesses, because it's not all good. All good. And in knowing and understanding the strengths and the weaknesses and accepting everything for what it is, we can begin to establish a society that works for us, that allows us to have our weaknesses while making sure that we don't settle for the weaknesses but continue to strengthen them, and allows for our strengths to get even stronger. So the whole idea then that we in the Bahamas, and this starts from the top down, could love being Bahamian so much, yet if you were listening to the House of Parliament as they were swearing in, and they swear all of their allegiance to the Queen and heirs and successors and future successors forevermore, means that we live in this two-ness. And the two-ness has become like a three-ness and a four-ness, if you really ask me, because we try to be Bahamian in one sense, which we don't term or deem as African, and we trying to be British because we got to keep the Queen Mother happy. So don't mind us knocking down all of the political signs. We wouldn't dare touch one of those signs in Russell Square. I'm not saying we should, but I'm just making the point that not a sign with the Queen on it will be touched. Because for one, we don't even see a need to not have that sign up in Russell Square. Because as far as we're concerned, that's just the way it is. And I'm not saying we should go down there and rip the signs down. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we should get to the point where our consciousness, the oneness of being with the Most High, allows us to appreciate our story. And I've said this many times, we need to create a colonizer's park. And you take all of the statues, Queen Victoria, Christopher Columbus, Woodes Rogers, whichever one's still standing, pictures, and put all of them in one park. And put the story of how they came in and brutalized us and dehumanized us and lied about us and called us savage and did all the things that still have us running crazy today, to the point where we got people being shot up 8, 9 at a time now. and people not respecting, the simplest rules and the simplest laws in society. Where does this come from? This comes from self-hate, self-ignorance, and again wanting to be valued by those who never valued you in the first place. It's just like the needy person in your life. I was getting ready for church this morning, and as always, I turn on the TV, listen a little bit of Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, whatever have you. And Joel Osteen, I caught a piece of his message, and I smiled because I say, wow, this ties right into what we will be talking about today. And he was talking about needy people and how you will never, ever, ever, ever make them happy. You never please them. You go out of your way to jump through hoops, and you help them move, and you put a couple dollars in their hand, and you call them every so often, and you make things work in their life, and then the minute you have something else to do, all of a sudden, you the bad guy. And he said, you have to understand that those type of people will never be satisfied. You'll never ever be what they want you to be, and that's they're trying to fit you into their mold of being their slave. And that's what the Queen Mother, that's what all colonizers seem to do. No matter how much you act like them, no matter what you do to make it seem as if, okay boss, I with you, I'm dressed like you, I speak like you, I walk like you, I do everything like you, can I be you? The answer is no, you'll never be me. You'll never be allowed to marry amongst us. You'll never be allowed to truly live with us. We won't really call you for the real meeting. We'll call you for the meeting that we need you to be at. Because after we've already divvied up the goods, then we'll call you to explain to you what it is you must work with. So this is what you got. The breadcrumbs. And we still yet, in this day and time, refuse to wake up to the reality that things are never going to change. We're running after this needy person, this needy country, these needy colonizers, thinking that in one sense, oh yeah, we pleasing our parents, we pleasing our families and our blood and our genetic ancestry. Yes, we are African Bahamian, but then at the same time, we running around and trying our best to mimic what we'll never be. All we do is look at the byproduct of colonialism, and we think to ourselves, boy, and Frantz Fanon speaks about this too, about this reality of the fact that you see your colonizers living in a nice house and driving in a nice car and wearing nice clothes, and you see them all around the world and everybody's bowing to them and respecting them, and you feel like just because you put on their clothes and play dress up and sit in their chair, that's like your son. I mean, I've seen my sons do it, put on my shoes and try to carry my bag. It doesn't make them me. One day they will be me and they'll be better than me, but that's because we have the same blood. But we feel as if we put the crown on and we have all of the, the mace out and the wigs on, and we got all of the protocols and the rules and everything in order, that somehow that's going to make us these very colonizers. And we literally became them insofar as we began to treat our own people worse in some instances than the colonizers were treating us. Some people say, man, this country was in better shape when the UBP was running it. And when they start talking, as much as you may say, man, stop talking foolishness, sometimes what they're saying is true, as far as education and crime and all that stuff. But of course, we understand that there are external factors that go way beyond any political party. But the point that's being made is, this majority rule that we were so happy about that we still don't celebrate in any event. Right? It's just a date on the calendar, right? But the reality of the situation is, we have been lying to ourselves and lying to our people by telling our people that this majority rule was freedom. All it really was an opportunity for a group of people to be the filter for the money that has been stolen, money that has been brought together from slavery, and colonialism, and all of the things, the savagery that has put us in the mind state that we're in right now. All of that money comes through a certain group of people called the government. I'm talking about political party, and I'm talking about the government. And the government then decides who will get contracts based on this money that is being filtered through them. And so your best bet of getting a contract is to now make sure that you align yourself either with both parties, or you realize that when your party ain't in, you will suffer, but when your party in, you got it good. And this is how people are living. This is how people are living. And it's a sin of misdeed of double consciousness, because we're not using all the strengths that we have to take ourselves from the dependency of our colonizers and saying, let's start our farms. Let's actually become economically sovereign, whereby we can depend on ourselves. It's like you starting a business, but you always going back for another loan and you never really paying it off. You making payments, but you got to borrow to make the payments. So the business is never yours. It's never yours. So the country really is never ours, because we never really became economically sovereign. You see? But what is the message today? Is economic sovereignty our ultimate goal? No, it's not. It also is a byproduct of us streaming into the consciousness of the Most High. And our biggest problem is we don't even know who the Most High is. We think the Most High literally is some dude sitting on a throne from some place called heaven, looking down on us and deciding who can win the NBA Finals and who can actually win this boxing match. And Lord help me pass this exam. And all our little petty wants and needs, we think that this Most High is sitting there, you know, controlling all of these things. Everybody, the two fighters in the ring, everybody's signing the cross. Okay, now, so whose side going on really? You know what I'm saying? So, this double consciousness that W.E.B. Du Bois speaks about is still alive and well today, insofar as when we look at who we are essentially, there is a part of us that personifies in what we know as inception, which is about 3 months prior to when we are conceived. There's conception, and then there's birth. Your true existence, who you really are, comes at inception. This is before conception even takes place now. This is when you are but a thought. This is when you are in what is referred to as the etheric realm. Okay? Scientists today would say, we'll speak about ovulation. And in Tamari we knew that there had to be 3 perfect ovulations before conception. These 3 perfect ovulations has to do with what we know as inception, which speaks to who you truly are in existence and in the real world, in real time. Conception, when that sperm hits the egg, speaks to your true personality. Your true personality, because this is when the DNA and the RNA begin to come together, and the spirit of the child, or that energy that was always there, begins to take instructions from the various DNA and RNA to create what is known as a personal state or personality. Then there's a 9-month gestation insofar as our genes having been coded from the time of original creation or primary creation, being coded with what we know as melanin or living light, that works in cycles of 9, then brings forth a baby or a child after 9 months. And once that child is born, that birth and the life after that is when that child must learn to wear the mask that will allow it to function in this day and time. Now, what's the difference between that and having two consciousness? Because it's one thing when you know you have a mask on, and it's one thing when you think the mask is your face. Because I want to be clear, I'm not saying that people who dress up and go in Parliament and do whatever it is to get through their day are wrong. That's not what I'm saying. We all have to do that. But we must understand that it is but a mask that you must take off, put it on the wall when you get home, and be who you truly are to your family, so that one day your children won't have to wear that particular mask. They may wear another one, but that particular mask will be thrown in the garbage, put aside, because we as a people should have risen past having to wear that particular mask, knowing that we can be who we are even in our House of Parliament, our Senate, our schools, our hospitals, our law chambers, etc., etc. And this is the reality that merging with the Most High allows us to do. Because what we don't understand is merging with the Most High really begins with us as a people merging together. This is the whole idea of unity. When you say the word unity, uni meaning what? One. And iti meaning what? A state of oneness. Bringing us back to what? Atonism, at oneism. We must come together and we must begin to make your problems my problems, and my problems your problems, and my benefits your benefits, and my benefits your benefits. We must begin to merge who we are. And I'm not saying everybody got to get in everybody's business. That's not what I'm saying. But when we start to function with common unity or a common oneness, that is us merging with the Most High and then actually utilizing what the Most High has given us, because there's a certain intelligence that we have if we would use it to understand that the very elements and the very formulas in nature, once we learn to use them and utilize them, there's nothing we'll want for. We'll have all the food that we need. We'll have all of the shelter that we need. We'll have the transportation and the protection and everything that we need if we would utilize what the Most High has given us. And this is what our oppressors have over us. Because they keep telling us to wait for somebody to come out of the sky to save us. But meanwhile, they exploring and studying, and they're getting to know the Most High. They're understanding how hydrogen works and helium works, and oh wow, we take this metal and we mesh it with this, and boom, and next thing you know, you got cars, and then you got phones, and you got computers and TVs, and all the way up to now they talking about we move from the countryside to the villages to the community all the way to Facebook. So everybody lives on Facebook now. And they literally have taken us out of the conversation insofar as we now feel like we need to get on board with what they're doing, when originally that's what we're supposed to be doing. And remember, everything in their society ultimately works off of electricity. The only some, I saw an article recently where Germany broke a record whereby half of the energy that they're using is coming from solar energy. And they're not even in a sun belt like we are. So we should really be ashamed that we're not utilizing. We shouldn't have no high electricity bills and be struggling the way that we're struggling. We have everything that the Most High has given us, but we're not using it because we have this double consciousness that tells us we have to act like something that we are not, and in acting like what we are not, we're doing what they, how could you pretend to be like somebody who lives in London where it's cold all the time and raining all the time? You living in the hot sunny Bahamas, but you running around as if you in London? That's double consciousness. And that causes us to suffer. That causes us to suffer. So in the original books of the Bible then, we learn of this consciousness that we must grasp and learn to harmonize ourselves with. On page 217, we started again in verse 56. It says, trust in Ane-Re and the events of your latter day. So you must first trust in Ane-Re. You must first trust yourself, trust those in your community, and ultimately trust nature. To trust Ane-Re. And it goes on to say, you see, the Z pillar, being the symbolic backbone of the original sacrificial shepherd Asaru, produced sparks as bright as the Sibtu, which is to say Sirius, and Sahu, which is to say Orion star constellations, thus was able to produce very stable electrical currents, just as a modern battery does. So we had batteries in ancient Africa, alright, known as the Z pillar. Today is just a symbol, but these symbols actually had practical use and practical value that allowed for us to pull from the free energy of this planet. This planet has free energy that if we learn how to tap into it, we wouldn't have to ever worry about an electricity bill again. Right? So these stable currents were able to be produced. This was necessary in order to alter the very energy and chemical currents of humanity, so that you would be mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically made anew. Know you for a surety that the Most High Heavenly One has made these signs and degrees clear to humanity, if you would only but use your intellect and understanding. So these Z pillars allowed us to run our universities, allowed us to run our cities, allowed us to run life as we knew it. And this is what allowed us to change our very mentality, our spirituality, our emotions, and our physical selves. The high guardian angelic host Tahuti, as the master of all writing, wisdom, and medical sciences, was the keeper and protector of the angelic mysteries. Thus was in possession of the knowledge concerning the Tepi Hesp, which many know today as the aura, and the Arush, which are the glandular seats which it superimposes. The Arush are the wheels, or if we look at the spinal column, there are certain energy centers or energy seats on the spinal column, and these whirling vortexes of energy over our glandular seats are known as the Arush, as well as how it interacts with the serpent gene and serpent power that dwells within all members of humanity in varying degrees of genetic potency, and more importantly, how to control and utilize the serpent power called Sehem Mami Wata. Sehem Mami Wata, or Mother Spark, and Ta, or the spark or light force of Mother Earth within the angelic mysteries. So earlier we learned about the serpent seed as it pertains to the devil. Because again, if you read in Revelation chapter 12, it speaks about this dragon, this serpent, this devil coming to this planet. And so the whole idea was that everything that was a snake was bad or evil. But then this couldn't be true, seeing that Moses held a what? A staff or a serpent. Let's look at that quickly. Because we don't want people to think that in the Qubtic church, we worshiping the serpent. You know, they look for any excuse to not love themselves. Any excuse to hold on to double consciousness. And if we jump over in the book of Numbers, Let me see if I can find what I want. I didn't originally plan to go here. Looking at Numbers 21, exactly. Okay, I have it highlighted. Go to I start at verse 8. And the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, then he held a serpent of brass, he lived. So that's two serpents. That's two serpents. One is biting and one is healing. One is biting and one is healing. Alright? And if we just pause for a moment and actually look at these words in the original languages that they were revealed in, we'll see something here. Okay? Numbers 20 and verse 8. Take the rod sorry, 21. What am I saying 20? And the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent. A what? A seraph, like as in the seraphim, the angelic order. Yes? Specifically a seraph or symbolical creature. Right? And set it upon a pole, a niche, a flag, also a sail, a token, a banner. Right? And it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent. Okay? But now this time, the serpent is Nachash. That's the serpent that's being utilized in Genesis chapter 3. Okay? From its hiss, means to whisper. And put it upon a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent, Nachash, had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent, Nachash, of brass, he lived. So what they did was, and if you pay attention, you had the seraphim and you had the Nachashites. And then the seraphim were those who brought the message of life to those who had been bitten by the Nachashites. This is what we're talking about today. You see? Right here. Okay? So this serpent gene is that of the seraphim now. We're talking about those angelic hosts that are of an agreeable nature with regards to the Most High Heavenly One. Verse 58 says, beware of those who will pretend that they have true faith in the scriptures, for surely many will seek to deceive you. Just as the serpent is the symbol of Sachem Mamiwata, and not a symbol of evil or temptation, as in the Greco-Romanized interpretations of monotheism. So the Greco-Roman interpretation of monotheism that came out of atonism is what made us think that this serpent was a symbol of evil, right? But again, let's look at Matthew chapter 10. Because again, in us learning who we are, we've been taught that everything that gives us power is something that's savage, evil, unworthy of God's sanctioning. Matthew chapter 10 verse 16. When we go to Matthew chapter 10 verse 16, if this serpent is so bad, why do we have Yahshua, whom many falsely call Jesus today, saying, behold, verse 16 of Matthew chapter 10, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So I know what you're going to face out there. People who backbiting, people who undermining, people who going to lie on you, people who going to try to make you seem to be something that you're not, who are going to underhandedly try to destroy everything that you're doing, but you are of the seed of the Most High Heavenly One, who in ancient Tamaray was a ram, the mascot of which was a ram. Okay? So these lamb or sheep were going out into a world full of wolves or dogs. As Yahshua says in Matthew chapter 15, he can't give the children food to dogs. Talking to the Canaanite lady, right? Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Wise as which serpents? The seraph. The seraphim. Right? Because these seraphim, these serpent-like beings also are part of our genetics, which is why the oldest part of the brain is known as the R complex, which is none other than the reptilian complex. The reptilian complex. Alright? So you have a serpent aspect to you, which is why you come out of an egg and you have webs between your fingers, and the scales or the ashes come on your skin if you don't put on enough lotion, and some of us eat eggs like a serpent, and we go on and on and on. But the reality is there was a serpent power that we have forgotten. Okay? Verse 59 says, though those of you who seek true faith will often feel outnumbered, know that the angelic hosts do walk with you, and in doing so, give thanks, knowing that Sahem Mamiwata, which is the mother spark, and Ta, or the spark or light force of Mother Earth, is the power of consciousness. And we're getting into the consciousness that we're really supposed to be actually tapping into. The power of consciousness, or supreme energy, also called Mother of the Universe. Not of the evil, but of the supreme power of consciousness. So there is a supreme power of consciousness, and we waste our energy focusing on the consciousness of other than self and kind and what they think of us, instead of tapping into this supreme power of consciousness. It is for this reason, verse 60, that this good news has been sent to you in order to ease your hearts and assist humanity towards the betterment of yourselves. This energy travels consistently in two directions, up and down the spinal column of all members of humanity, and it is curved much like that of a shape of a snake. That of which we speak is none other than which is called the Kundalini or sleeping serpent by those of the land of Sinj, or the Hindus. All members of humanity, verse 61, who so choose to obey the scriptures shall experience the mercy which this knowledge brings. So there is mercy that comes along with knowing this knowledge and understanding that you can tap into a supreme consciousness. The spinal cord was symbolized by a snake, and the serpent coiled upon the foreheads of the initiates into the Asaudian or Asetian society represented that divine fire which had crawled like a coiled serpent up humanity's inner tree of life, which is the spinal column, to activate the 12 occult nerves and awaken the divinity within. So what's the purpose of us tapping into this supreme consciousness? Is to wake up the divinity within. The divinity within cannot wake up with us living in two-ness. So to merge with the one, to merge with the Most High, is to truly merge with yourself and others of self and kind. This is what atonism is teaching. This is what we fail because we don't trust each other, because we think that everybody who looks like us, who's trying to get something off the ground, wants something from us, as far as trying to make funds to go build a house or to get a car or to get clothes, because it's happened to us so many times. But what's sad is, how much times has our oppressors done it to us? And we still doing it to us. And we still will run behind them. When they put out a brand of clothes, or a brand of food, or whatever, we go spend all our money just to say we had some of that, or we bought that, or we bought that. But if somebody looks like us, there's got to be something wrong with it, or it got to be an ulterior motive. They couldn't just be billing this because they care about me. and they care about themselves. And that's a sickness of double consciousness. That's why we say it's a misdeed in the Qubtic church. But obviously people don't always understand the word misdeed, so we use the word sin, which comes from the word zuen, or the ruler of those beast-minded people, those Greco-Romanized mentalities that still to this day will not accept who they are and merge into the supreme power of consciousness to receive the salvation that is due to them, the mercy that is due to them by way of atonism, at one-ism, that allows them to be one with the Most High, that allows them to control their environment, that allows them to control their very destiny by understanding this power that is within them. Double consciousness will never allow you to do that, because you'll always see the power outside of yourself, and you'll always try to seek to merge with a power that never is going to let you merge with it. You're never going to be in the quote-unquote Queen Mother's house. You're never going to be a part of the royal family. You're never going to be a part of the power structure of the G8. Those things are not for us. And we shouldn't be seeking to be a part of them in a sense whereby we want to become them. Now, maybe one of us may sneak in there, who knows? We may become a minister of finance, and next thing we sit up in the meeting. Then we can do something for our people. But be there to do something for our people. Not to say, oh great, I'm here now. Where's my car? You know what I'm saying? Where's my get out of jail free pass? That's not what we're doing. So, I want to wrap it up by just encouraging us to continue to strive. It's not easy. It's not easy. Many times we read in the scriptures where the Most High, when He found one or a few people in a whole city that was living the rights and the laws and the commandments and the precepts of their forefathers. So we shouldn't feel at all discouraged when we see ourselves working so hard and it's seemingly not necessarily going anywhere, or it's not going as fast as we want it to. It's not our plan. You must always remember, it's not our plan. Our job is to merge with the supreme power of consciousness, the mother of the universe. Awaken our divinity, which is known as Niter Top 10. Don't be afraid of Africa. Don't be afraid of Tamaray. Put down the double consciousness and pick up the supreme consciousness so that we can do what it is we need to do for our children. Because our purpose is to bring forth a what? A righteous seed. And with that I say, Amun Namastu.